Hello, once again. Robin and Lindsay here, two coaches on a mission. Lindsay House, who is an accountability coach, among many other things. I am Robin Sachs. I am a confidence coach and public speaking coach. And we have been popping on to LinkedIn via LinkedIn Live every couple of weeks to walk you through the ABCs of your success for 2022. We've each time stepped through a letter of the alphabet, and we are today on the letter P. And wow, do we have a lot of P words that we came up with quickly. So we're going to jump right in. How does that sound, Lindsay?
It sounds perfect. Thank you for the awesome introduction. Yes.
And you know what? As we were talking about the P words that we could talk about today, we realized there was almost a path. There's another P word. They're everywhere. But there was sort of a path that it followed. And so we're going to do things a little in order today because we think that when you have even success tips or success habits, success concepts, it's great to have them all as kind of dots in your life, but sometimes you can connect those dots. Mm-hmm. And anytime you can connect those dots, there's a lot more clarity, isn't there?
Yeah. So we're going to take you through that today, kind of just settle in and enjoy the ride and see how it all pieces together.
All right, I'll stop. All right.
Okay, this is accidental. Like these are just coming out.
It is. We obviously don't practice. we obviously don't. So anyway, so let's start with a P word that you hear constantly in your life and in business, and the word is plan or planning. And having a plan or doing some planning is probably the foundational piece of everything. It's the springboard for everything. If you don't have a plan, you have no clue what you're doing. And so you can't do a lot of the other things that would typically be very helpful for your success. Right. So what do you think about when we talk about plan or planning? What comes to your mind, Lindsay?
I know. Do you care if I go the fitness and nutrition route here?
I love it. Start there.
Okay. All right. I mean, I think we've all heard this, but failing to plan is planning to fail. And I have this conversation a lot with clients because I think that, to Robin's point, it's that springboard. And sometimes we don't put enough weight on that, to the importance of taking that 5-10 minutes to just sit down with your family or yourself in front of your calendar to say, where is fitness going to fall on my schedule this week, and block it, because that's part of the planning, like just setting it down. And I think people get caught up in, well, once I write it down, it has to happen. It doesn't. Your planning is just throwing it out to the world, saying, this is what I want to happen. This is what I want to see. And then I'll flex and flow with it. And I think that's where we need to get a little bit better, is the flexing and the flowing. That perfection word will come up in a minute, and I'll throw it back your direction for that one. But I think the same thing with food too. Like if we would just take that 5 or 10 minutes on a Sunday or a Saturday or whenever, before you go grocery shopping, to just say, what do I think 3 of my dinners want to look like? Because then I can eat leftovers the rest of the day. Or what do I just think 3 of my lunches? If we just took that small amount of time before we grocery, we would everything just flows so much smoother. Where do you go with this from a non-food, non-movement standpoint, Robin?
Very similar to what you're talking about is, both with things in my personal and professional life. Mm-hmm. Years ago, someone told me to ditch my to-do list. They said, why are you using a to-do list? And that caught me off guard, because I thought, what do you mean? I have tons of things that I need to do. I don't know. And when I asked them to explain what they meant, they said, get rid of a to-do list. Everything goes on your calendar. And so assign it a time, throw it in someplace, right? If you need to throw a load of laundry in, and between 10:30 and 11 today, you don't have anything scheduled, put there, toss a load of laundry in, right? It takes a minute to do, but you can go to one place and see everything you need to do, and it's got a plan. And by putting, by the same token, if I have to write a business proposal, I can write that on my to-do, or actually have it as a reminder on my calendar. That's great. But if I have an hour tomorrow of open time, I can pop a half hour in there, because I don't want to plan back to back to back to back. That's potential for failure there, and really to get burned out quickly. But if I've got a half hour that I can stick this in, I'm going to actually put on my calendar, during this time, I'm going to write that proposal.
Yeah.
So use your calendar, use your planner. There's a reason it's called a planner, is because everything you want to plan, you can put in there. And like Lindsay said, from things like meals and when am I going to work out, to anything that you've got going on in your personal or professional life. The idea is, I think people take planning way too seriously, and they try and do it perfectly. They try and do it way too in depth. Plan your day. Just start there. Plan one day and decide, the night before or that morning, depending on if you're a night or morning person, when is your head working clearly? Take 5 minutes. What are you going to do today? What aren't you going to do today? That's a big part of a plan too. Hey, what are the meals? What are you going to eat? Throw meals on your planner. Here's what we're going to do for lunch. Here's what we're going to do for dinner, right? What am I going to do for work? Put that into action and start with one day. Don't do it big, start small. Then next time, plan your week, right? After you've planned a couple of days. Just get in the habit, and this is a habit, is all it is of looking a little bit ahead and making a choice before you're in that moment. That's really all planning is, because think about it. How often do you personally, any listeners, how often do you find yourself in a spot and you're running around and it's last minute and you have to find things and you have to get things and then you forget something and then you're rushing and then you're stressed and then if I took 2 minutes 3 hours ago to just go, in 3 hours, I need to go do this. Let me put this and that together. Okay, now I'm good. In 3 hours, all I needed to do was go, let me grab these things and walk out the door. And you find your stress levels plummet when you start doing a little more planning. And it's amazing how things don't fall through the cracks. Everything has time.
Yeah, I want to take a minute too when you said that people want to plan with perfection, because I think that somebody can hear that and go, what do you, I think I get what you're talking about. I want to just walk through one quick example of that with the meal planning, that people think that, okay, first I need to sit down and look through Pinterest or cookbooks, and then I need to write out my recipes, and then I need to gather my ingredients, and then I need to go grocery shopping. And in that same day, I need everything cut up and I need everything put in beautiful containers in the fridge so it looks good and I can be ready to grab. And then and it's like, oh my gosh, you're 4 hours in already. Yes. Like, no, that might come down the road because you've been doing it for so long. It's become habitual that all of a sudden now you are at a spot that you can have a pretty fridge with containers all lined up and ready to go. Not in the beginning. So just like be careful with the perfectionism type thinking with that, because it's enough for us to never start if we think I don't have 4 hours in a Sunday, and which maybe we need to jump into the perfection talk, because that's where I think a lot of people go. That's why you keep hearing, I like my whole brand is direction, not perfection. Because I think the second we get stuck in perfection, we come to a halt, a skidding halt, where we get paralyzed, we freeze because everything just seems hard. And I think that's what Robin and I are constantly and gently like laying down for you, is that it doesn't have to be that hard. It can even be fun, but we have to let it be, right?
It's funny because I use words like simple and easy. I use words like that often. And sometimes I get pushback from clients and they're like, well, no, that's not easy. And I said, okay, so let me clarify what I mean when I say easy. It doesn't mean that the first time you do it, it's going to just work and then it's just going to happen. The key is, here's another P, persistent, right? If you're consistent, if you put a plan in place and you just start working that plan, there will come a day where you realize, oh my goodness, this is so much easier than ever. And one day you won't be thinking about it anymore. It's just how you show up. It's just what you do. And so it's amazing when you stop to think about, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And so when we talk about habits, the key is anything you want to do will be simple at some point. It will be easy at some point. I promise it will, but you're never going to start there. And the reason it's not easy at the beginning is because you might be looking at perfection and aiming for that. And where you are now and where your perceived perfection, which isn't even a thing, perfection isn't even a thing, but where you are now and where you think you should be going are so far apart. And you've got to realize that there are all these steps in between that once you do the steps, you're here. You're here. But, it's one of the challenges, like you said, you hop onto social media and you follow people because you love, that's the person you're aspiring to be, or that's the thing I'm aspiring to do, which is phenomenal. But you've got to keep that mindset as that person's on chapter 20, I'm on chapter 2. Yeah. And if I expect my chapter 2 and your chapter 20 to look the same, I'm going to burn myself out. I'm going to get down on myself and doubt myself and second guess. And I'm going to say, I can't do this. It's too hard. Instead of going, their chapter 2 looked exactly like where I am now. But because they stayed persistent and they kept doing it, they got to where they are now. And that's how you need to do it too. So I would say throw that word perfection out of your vocabulary forever. And I know that's easier said than done, but look at what you want to do and then go, that's out in the future. To get exactly that, I need to start where I am. And I need to take one step. Let me do one thing today. Then next week, let me do one thing. Let me do another thing next month. And before you know it, you're so much closer to exactly what you want. But you will never get there when you start. So don't have that expectation ever. But no, you can get there if you just keep going.
Which takes a lot of patience, right? Which is part of our journey today. If we're going to line it back out for you, it was first we need to plan. Then we need the persistence to stick with our plan. And then we need the patience to not feel like the results are going to happen. Like Robin just said, 3 months down the road or months down the road, that we're not talking hours in the day or weeks down the road. The easy part comes once we've done it long enough that it becomes second nature. So patience is a hard one for a lot of individuals. This is like it's a people thing, right? Like it's not just a you thing. I feel like if you ever feel like I have no patience, first of all, quit telling yourself that, because that's what you're going to start to really believe. And then also work on it. Like it's important to have patience. So if you really don't feel like you have any, it's a good area to put some time and energy into.
Yeah.
So,
there's the whole FOMO thing. There's so much of just everything can be so instant. And yes, yes, and yes. We live in a world where it's phenomenally convenient to quickly do so many things that were never able to be done before. And that's amazing. That saves us time, that saves us energy, it saves us money sometimes. Yeah. It just makes life easier in a lot of ways. However, if you apply that to every aspect of your life, you're going to be disappointed and you're never going to get to where you want to go, because some things, there isn't a convenient way to get there. There isn't a quick way to get there. There isn't an instant way to get there. There's not hacks. This is a conversation I have with clients so often where they're like, I've tried all these things for so long and nothing works, and I'm looking to get it to work this time. And as we dig deeper into a conversation, oftentimes, and again, this is something we've all done in different arenas, they've jumped at the hacks. Do this in 30 days, be this kind of person in 90 days, do this 2 hours a day, and before you know it, you'll blah, 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 blah. And everything was a hack to potentially get them somewhere quicker.
Yeah.
And I would, if there's anything out of any of this stuff you hear, I would want you to hear, please stop trying hacks. There is not a way to get to a lot of things more quickly. There just isn't. And the irony, of course, is some people have spent 10 years doing hacks when if they just did it the easy, long way, in a year, they would have been exactly where they wanted to be.
Yeah.
But we've wasted 9 years trying to get to something faster that we could have had 9 years ago. Yeah. And so that's a mindset shift, but it's an important one. And so patience is absolutely key. Embrace patience. 100% of your expectations need to be out in the future. Do not have expectations. Things are going to happen now. Go out, look what you want, figure out what you need to do to get there, and then come back to today and always stay in the present moment. What can I do right now to start moving me in that direction? And then tomorrow, and then the next day. That's the only way to get there.
Yeah, and it's kind of like an under promise over deliver for yourself, which is what I often see with my clients, because the further out we kind of think, normally you're already experiencing wonderful things way before you ever hit that like big goal that you were seeking. So it's fun along the way, as long as you can keep that bigger, it's more the little wins, the little champagne moments and cheersing along the way versus we always picture the big party at the end, the big trip, the big whatever. And it's really the little stuff. Hi, Allison. I haven't said good morning yet to you. I just saw you jumped on.
Hi, Allison. Thanks for joining us again. It's awesome. You always add such wonderful value. And what you just said, positive self-talk is such a piece of that, because those things that we've been talking about, you're not going to get outside of yourself. They come from inside of you. You run the show. You make the choices, the decisions. You do all of that. Nobody else can do that for you. And so, using that positive, another P. How did we miss positive self-talk? I should have my confidence coach license taken away from me.
It was too easy.
That's all I ever talk about. Thank you, Allison, for bringing that up as another wonderful P. Yeah, you've got to stay positive in your head. You've got to make sure you're telling yourself the things that are going to encourage you and support you and keep you going, not the things that are constantly going to be pulling you back and helping you self-doubt yourself. Key to patience, and mantras can help with that, right? Find a mantra for yourself that literally speaks to, I'm not there yet. Is it Carol Dweck or who's, I can't remember who's the yet, but she's, one of the authors I've read, it may not be Carol Dweck. I'll find out and we can put it in notes, but it's the whole yet concept. Anything that you say to yourself, I can't do this, add yet to it. Yeah. So, all right. So let's hit a couple of other things here, because we've talked about planning, we've talked about persistence, we've talked about perfectionism.
Let's talk about barriers, like I feel like our other P was people pleasing, because that can become a huge barrier. So if we're planning and we feel like we're scooting along, we're having patience, even we are having persistence within it. It's like, what are some fall offs? What are things where people go, why can't I stick with this? And people pleasing came to both Robin and I's mind, because when we don't put ourselves first, when we're not doing that self-care, everything that I know we've talked about, but when we become too much of a people pleaser, that's an easy way to really get knocked off what we need time for ourselves, because now all of a sudden we haven't allotted any time for ourselves in there. Do you see your clients really getting knocked off by some people pleasing?
Absolutely. It's a huge roadblock for so many people, because again, most of us, and it's just an awareness. It's very common, especially in our society, to consistently look outward. Mm-hmm. And very seldom do we look inward until either we discover something that helps us and goes, wow, if I look inward, I'm in a lot more control than I think. And that's a great feeling. So I'm going to go there. Or somebody helps you go inward and realize you have more control than you think. Because if your focus is all outward on other people, other thing, everyone's advice, the greatest advice in the world, by the way, stop listening to every piece of advice you get. Just stop listening to it. That's the one piece of advice you need. Figure out what you need to do and go do it. And don't worry about what everyone else is saying and doing. And people pleasing is a huge part of that. And again, the irony, I think the mindset shift that can help is, think about how concerned or worried you are sometimes about pleasing other people, or making sure people see you in a certain light, or think that you're helpful or competent, or whatever it is you're looking to do. And take that exact same skill, because I want you to look at that as a skill, and turn it back to yourself. People please, but you need to include yourself in that. What do you need to do today to people please you? To make sure that you feel competent, confident, that you are doing for you things that make me perceive you as helpful and a go-to, and all of those things. So, sometimes when we have a roadblock, if you just turn the roadblock around and point it to yourself, right? it's the old, I think we did this in B with breathing, right? When someone's really stressing and anxious, what do we tell them to do? All right, take a deep breath. But when you're stressed and anxious, you never say to yourself, okay, take a deep breath. We give advice to other people or do things for other people that helps them. Do the same things for yourself, and you'll find that quickly you can help you in so many ways.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And I'm going to steal your word for our wrap up here, but then our whole journey takes us to personal peace. And I want just everyone to take that deep breath in right now, and the shoulders relax, and and when I think about personal peace, it's kind of like how at the end of the night, when I lay my head down on my pillow, and this is what I want for our clients, this is what I want for all of you, is that I want that personal peace. I want there to be this, like, it might not have been a perfect day, but it was darn good. I feel good about my efforts. They aligned with my wants for myself, for my family, and if you are constantly laying your head down at the end of the night and feeling frazzled, like you didn't do enough, like it wasn't a good day, I'll do better tomorrow, then we're missing areas to pause, which was another word that we had thought about, to pause and really consider, like, where are those areas that you are disappointed with yourself? Is it that you are jumping out of bed, waking up your kids, everyone's frazzled till you throw them out the door, and kids are in tears and you're crying by the time you get them on the bus because the morning was so hectic, you're jumping on calls? Like, where are you missing your personal peace? And that example might not have been you at all. Maybe yours is more in a work scenario, or maybe it's just an internal struggle within yourself that you're constantly frustrated that you didn't fit in the workout, that you ended your night eating when you've been telling yourself you weren't going to, or you ended the night with drinks and you've been telling yourself pause and find that intentionality about, where do I want to work on that's going to bring me peace? Right back to you, Robin.
Yeah, something so important about, pause. There's power in that pause. The pause is where you find your peace.
Yeah.
There's no other place you're going to find it. And this, for a long time, and even to some extent now, you hear about the hustle, the grind, right? And all that stuff. Horrible advice.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible. Because that's why the words that also are so prevalent in our society right now are things like burnout, right? Yeah. Those things cause that because there's no pause. It's a keep going, keep going, keep going. And that's not a sustainable model for work, for health, for peace, for success, for accomplishment, for good mental health, for good physical health, for anything. That's not going to work. They're on opposite sides of a spectrum. So when you talk about power in that pause, your power, your personal power, no matter what it is you're working on, comes from stillness. Mm-hmm. If you don't have moments in stillness, you will not have the moments of power that change things for you. And so the way to find that personal peace is, if you're in a hustle type mentality, and I think, so many people post-pandemic have found this, where I was grinding in that corporate life forever. And guess what? All of a sudden, things kind of shifted, and I got a chance to sit back and go, wait a minute, where is my value? What does my time look like? Where can I add value and monetize that, or get paid and respected and help people, as opposed to just go in and check boxes every day and feel more disrespected? And that's why this whole shakeup is happening in the workplace, right? People are, for the first time, just sitting back and looking at things a little differently. Mm-hmm. And that pause, even though it wasn't the healthiest pause or the best pause that we wanted, that pause is what allowed people to go, how else could this look? Because if we don't take the pause, we think it's going to look one way, and it's got to keep looking that way, and we don't stop. So your power lies in the stillness. And what a great thing to go back to the idea of planning. You know what? Plan 5 minutes a day in your calendar. Put it in your calendar. It is an appointment that is a non-negotiable. 5 minutes, you pause. Mm-hmm. Even if you're running the rest of the day, that pause will give you clarity. It will allow your mind to settle. It will allow your stress and anxiety to settle down a bit. That's why we call it stress management. not stress elimination. If your
Mhm.
stress is up here, find the place to pause. And all of a sudden, it's going to come down here. Take a couple of breaths, sit back and grab a cup of coffee, a glass of water, whatever it is. Go for a walk. Just getting up and getting outside, getting up and moving changes your circulation, your oxygenation. Those things all create a pause. But you've got to step away and remind yourself, you stepping away does not mean you're quitting. Pausing does not mean you're stopping and it's done, you failed. Intentional pausing is the thing that's going to let you succeed 100% of the time. Build that in. And Allison, I see you cannot pour from a full cup. It doesn't work. So empty your cup a little bit.
Yeah, pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
Pour right. From a full cup. You're aiming to pour for that. Yes.
Right. You can't pour from a full cup. Exactly. Yeah. So definitely. So get that pause in there. And again, understand it's counterintuitive. You're stopping doing everything for a couple of minutes every day is the most successful thing you will do that day.
It is counterintuitive.
And until you do it, you're not going to understand what that means or how that works.
So, okay. So the homework has been brewing in my brain. And I think I love how you talk in chapters, Robin, and how everyone is in different chapters of their life and where they are in their journey. And so I think a great goal for all of us as we think through planning, pausing, where we find our power, personal peace. I'm guaranteeing that there was some part of this talk where someone went, that's more where I am. I'm maybe not at the beginning, or maybe you're at the very beginning, but I want you to pinpoint where you are. Are you in the starting the planning phases? Are you in the persistence, needing the patience phase? Are you stuck in the people pleasing phase? Pick your spot. And that's your focus for the week that you're going to start to work on and figure out how to tackle that. Does that sound good?
That's wonderful. Yeah. And if you need a quick analogy, an easy way to kind of think about what you're talking about, Lindsay, is, when we talk about accelerating a car, right? We talk about 0 to 60, right? The thing is, in order to get from 0 to 60, you first need to get to 10, then 20, then 30, then 40, then 50. You will not go from 0 to 60. Even if you're in the fastest car on earth and it takes you 3 seconds to get there, right? You just don't jump from 0 to 60. You accelerate. And so if you have a 60, that's phenomenal. Identify that and then get back. And all you're going to do now is focus on working to get to 10. That's it. And once you're at 10, only then start focusing on 20. That's how you do it. And so think about that, and patience creates your perceived perfection, if you want to think about it that way. There's no other way to get there. And I didn't mean to do all of those P's, but it's like now I can't stop. So we should end.
The post-pandemic, I don't know if you noticed that. Like our whole talk could have been post-pandemic. Like that could have all so
really?
funny.
How many keywords are? It's phenomenal. Okay.
I know. All right. So we're officially
we're a little hyper-focused today.
I love it. We're going to sign off. You take your homework and run with it. We will be back. What are we on to?
Q, right? LMNOPQ. I can't even just go to what. See,
I know. I have to sing it even.
We're on Q. So if anybody out there has thoughts for Q, I believe we are back with you next week. We'll be doing our next LinkedIn Live. And so feel free to send us some Q words. And we will go from there.
Sounds good. All right. You can find me on my podcast at Direction, Not Perfection. Robin, where do you want everyone to seek you out?
Greatest place, my website, robinjsachs.com. Lots of free resources, information, videos, good stuff there. And if you ever want to follow me, reach out to me or connect or see how to work with me, I am on LinkedIn. That is the greatest place to get me. I'm there pretty regularly.
Yay. All right. Have an awesome day.
You too. Bye, everybody. Peace out.
Bye.